the idiots at here. They think we're all stupid, I guess.
News, analysis, opinion.
Totally agree on that. I disagree with you.
It's over.
Very upset.
Thanks for taking my call. Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you very much for taking my call.
Wanted to ask you really quick, is there room on the bandwagon for me?
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. This hour of Colombo Company brought to you by Gutter Pros. Water goes where we tell it. Call 314-656-7195 or visit them at gutterpros.com. Number one for live and local
Conservative talk.
Every day, something new.
news, analysis, opinion.
Who's ready to stand up for Canada with me?
Regardless of anything, we're going to be friends with Canada.
So much bias. The first 100 days has been a breath of fresh air.
The border.
The change is undeniable.
We have an opportunity to help turn the page on the Biden economy and set up our country for long-term economic strength.
101.9 and 94.1
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
The time to rise has been engaged with better, best, rearranged. I'm talking here to me alone. I listen to the finest work song, the finest of hours. Welcome to a Friday afternoon. Hello, I'm Tony Colombo in studio with producer Stel Pontica. Stel, babe.
Hold on, Tony. Let's make it official here.
Yeah.
It's Friday.
I had it down as a fantastic Friday, but then Jamie, what did Jamie say it was today? Maybe he did say it was a fantastic Friday.
I think he may have.
I had it down as a freaky Friday, and I guess it was a fantastic Friday instead. Welcome to the Friday edition of Colombo and Company. We are going to get you up to speed on all the latest in news heading into the weekend. We'll also get you that weekend forecast from Channel 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. He is going to join us at about 2:45 this afternoon. Always looking forward to that. Maybe we'll get a good one for once.
Golly, I hope so.
You already know. I don't.
Okay.
I haven't looked.
Well, we're way overdue.
We're way overdue.
I'll say that as a tease. Continue to be. We're way overdue. So hopefully Steve's got some good news.
We'll get those details from Steve Templeton a little bit later on in this hour. We're also going to be joined by attorney and host of Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kayser. Elizabeth Kayser is going to be in studio with us in the 3 o'clock hour. Looking forward to that. You can hear that program every Sunday evening, 8 p.m. here on News Talk STL. And to help get us started on this Friday afternoon is the co-host of Miike Ferguson in the Morning, which you can hear every weekday morning starting at 5:30 a.m. here on News Talk STL. The great Gabe Phifer is with us. Gabe, hello.
You know what time it is.
I know what time it is. It's time for some good weather, but I don't know if we're going to get any or not.
Yeah, well, it's looking pretty nice out there right now.
Right.
I don't know if you can squeeze in whatever nice times you can get.
Yeah, I was out a little bit ago.
For the next few hours.
It was warm and sunny and nice, something that we haven't seen a whole lot of. I'm going to ask Steve about this when we are talking to him later. April was the wettest April on record in history for the St. Louis metro area. I haven't looked into this at all, and I wouldn't know where to look. I'm not an expert in this stuff, obviously, but I would guess that May have a chance at being the coldest on record, because we haven't had any, like today is supposed to be, is it even 80 out there today? I saw the high was supposed to be like around 80. What is it right now?
Getting there.
what is it? 75 right now, is according to my phone. It's still like we haven't had any hot days in May, and I know May is not like typically one of the super hot months, but May is when Memorial Day weekend happens. That's when the pools open up. That's when the kids get out of school. There's usually some hot days and swimming and being, like that summer activities in May. Today, if it gets to 80, it feels like, oh my gosh, it's so hot out here. Like, I don't know. Maybe we could set records in back-to-back months in the St. Louis area. If April was the wettest, May may be the coldest. We'll talk to Steve about
entirely
that
possible.
Yeah, it just feels like we haven't. The kids are out of school now. My kids still have a couple days left. They go a couple days into next week, but I know many kids around the area are on summer vacation already, and it does not feel like summer has started at all in the St. Louis area.
And by the way, if you're walking around, walk around over the next few days, and if you're thinking, what's that smelly smell that I smell? It's wildfire smoke from Canada, which is heading down here.
Way.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Smelly smell. It smells.
They're
smelly.
still having the wildfires. I thought they fixed that.
I think they took care of them from last fall, but now there's a new batch in the prairie provinces again.
A whole lot to talk to Steve Templeton about when we get him on the line here in about 35 minutes or so. Looking forward to that. All right. In the meantime, lots to talk about out there. The Supreme Court handed Donald Trump a at least temporary win today when it comes to his border policies and deportation plan. Also, some really interesting news out of the state of Kentucky. Another Democrat serving the state of Kentucky has switched party affiliations. Somebody that's been serving the Democratic Party for nearly 30 years is now a Republican. That really says something. We'll fill you in on the details of that. The Trump administration has uncovered one of the largest food stamp bribery schemes ever committed, and they have released the details of that as of this morning. So lots of things to get you updated on as we roll through this Friday afternoon. Gabe, let's start with Elon Musk. Elon Musk is already stepping away from Doge as planned. This has been and always was the schedule. There are rules about a position like what was given to Elon Musk about serving
temporary
the Democrat,
government employee or something like that.
Yeah, as a consultant, that type of position that has a very limited, finite timeline on it. And so this was always how it was going to be with Elon. He's not leaving early. He's not leaving because there's a fight. He was with Donald Trump in the Oval Office today, taking questions from reporters about his time with Doge and what he thinks about what they were able to accomplish and what they're happy about, what he's frustrated about, all of those things. We'll get into some of the. I watched a good chunk of that press conference, so I'm going to get into some of the details of it in a second. But Gabe, just overall, and I think you and me were both kind of Doge geeks when it was announced and when it started. So now that Elon's the Elon era at Doge has ended, because Doge as a department, as an agency, is not going anywhere. The Doge work continues. It will no longer, however, be headed up by Elon Musk. What do you think of this this first chapter of Doge and the Elon Musk era?
Well, sadly, what I think is going to happen is now that the Republicans have managed to campaign as much as they could off of the concept of Doge, and that they've abandoned a good 2/3 of it. They're just going to let it go by the wayside. That's my. It's a very pessimistic view, but that's kind of the writing I'm seeing on the walls here. Is that they basically rode the Elon celebrity and the excitement that he generated in the public about the idea of the government getting its financial house in order into office. They rode that wave into office, and of course, when the rubber meets the road, they're very unwilling to make the sort of deep cuts and deep changes that it's necessary to run to rein in the bureaucratic state here. And I think when Doge gets their report out for the what do they call it, the semi-quincentennial, the 250th anniversary of the country in July of next year, I guess, or 27. I think that's going to be the end of Doge. They're going to go out with a bang, but they're just going to disappear.
Yeah. I think you make a great point that, and I think this is another, this is an example of, and in something that we have talked about a lot over the years, the frustration within or with, I should say, with Republicans and the Republican Party that will, on the campaign trail and in political debates and political ads and things like that, will act like they are going to be very fiscally conscious and make cuts. But we've seen over and over and over again, when the rubber meets the road, Republicans never deliver when it comes to budget cuts or cleaning up fiscal efficiency and waste and fraud and those things. And, Doge, I think the number still stands at $160 billion that's, I think, the official number from Doge that they have identified and cut in their time. And $160 billion is, that's fantastic. And over the course of 3 or 4 months, I mean, that's great, but $160 billion is a drop in the bucket. You know what I mean? It's not, it's
a tenth of their goal.
Yeah. It's not anything to, it's not a huge game-changing success that's going to have any real impact. It's better. It's certainly better than nothing. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying that they didn't do good work, because they did, because that's $160 billion that wouldn't have been cut if Elon Musk didn't do this, if Doge didn't exist. But it's not it's not this game-changing, impactful number, I think, that some of us were hoping for. That's my estimation. What's yours?
Yeah, that's pretty much what we're talking about here. Yeah. Like, let's say you're going over your books and you discover that you're spending $10,000 a year more than you make. Right. So that's your deficit. You need to figure out how to get rid of $10,000 of waste, fraud, and abuse in your household. And you manage to find $1,000 of that $10,000 that you need. So, yeah, I mean, hey, that's $1,000 coming off of the tippy top. That's nice. That's actually a significant gain, but you're still $9,000 in the hole on your books there. So it's not going to help your debt situation if you keep spending $9,000 a year more than what you make.
So he actually addressed that.
I applaud the work. But,
I agree completely. And he actually addressed that in this press conference at the White House today. Elon Musk said that he is still a friend and will always be a friend to the president and to this administration. He will continue to help and consult Doge, when he can or when asked. So he's going to, he's still going to have at least a little bit of presence, reportedly, in that department moving forward. And he was specifically asked about what you're talking about, Gabe, the $1 trillion goal that he went in with. And when asked that question, Elon Musk's response was he believes that Doge will get there. Because as he said, Doge is not leaving. They are going to continue. But I find that hard to believe. I'm very, very pessimistic about that prediction from Elon Musk, because without a presidential campaign to motivate action, and with the success of saying we cut $160 billion already, in like a feather in the cap, and Elon Musk stepping down, I just don't see that drive from Doge to continue this work. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't see it.
The big momentum puller moment in time. And, you know, it's one of those things. If you miss it, it's done. You know, you can't get that magic back. The public support that Doge was enjoying for a good long while was a flash in the pan, and you could have continued it on if you'd kept the momentum going. But they, you know, our Congress wanted to give us this garbage.
Yeah.
So we're dealing with what we're dealing with. I think it would be a tough lift to bring it back.
You'll like this
sort of momentum.
You'll like this, Gabe. He was also asked at this press briefing, what's harder, making the government financially efficient or colonizing Mars? And he said it would be easier to colonize Mars.
It's true.
He's
not wrong. He's not wrong.
That's a great question.
That's just a matter of mathematics and will to colonize Mars.
Right.
And to fix government requires I don't like a Herculean task of getting a whole bunch of people who are living off of the graft and the grift of government to change their ways or give up the ghost and not fight you every step of the friggin' way.
Yeah.
So it's much easier to colonize Mars.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought that was hilarious.
That's a great question.
Yeah, and a great question. There's a little bit more here with Elon and Doge and the president. You know, this kind of puts it also kind of, you saw, you know, the sensational stories about, because Elon Musk has criticized the big beautiful bill, you know, Elon and Donald Trump are at war because Elon spoke out against the big beautiful bill. It was nice to see, and Jamie was talking about this earlier, and I thought Jamie was spot on when he was mentioning this. You know, that's just not how people work. It's how the media works, and it's how politics work. But you know, you can have your best friend in the world that you love and support and everything they do, but you know, they could take some action, you know, at their job or with with maybe their personal budget that you look at from the outside and go, you know, I don't necessarily agree with what you're doing there. It's not how I would do it. It doesn't mean you're at war or that you hate each other. But of course, that's how it is in the media, and that's how it is in politics. You know, if you say, if you are critical about one thing that somebody does, then you know that means you hate them and you're not on their team anymore, or not even in their party anymore. Sometimes, you know what I mean? Like, it's just ridiculous, and it's nice to see.
You want a bass boat? I'm not sure Christine's gonna be okay with you buying a bass boat, man.
Right.
I don't think that was a good use of your money. And you're like, but it's got glitter finish. Dude. What's wrong with you?
Right.
And so we're not at war. We're not at war because of the bass boat.
No, I just think that is just been ridiculous, that reporting, and we see it time and time again in politics and in the media. We've got Gabe Phifer.
Go ahead. Exit, the way they reported it.
Yeah, for sure. That's Gabe Phifer from Miike Ferguson in the Morning. He is sticking around, and as I mentioned, the Supreme Court has given Donald Trump a big win when it comes to his deportation policy today. We'll fill you in on the details of that. And this story out of Kentucky is just an interesting one. You know, it doesn't directly impact us here in Missouri and Illinois and in the St. Louis area, but it is an interesting development, and I think a sign of the direction of the Democratic Party, the alienation that the Democratic Party has caused on many of their supporters over the years. So I want to talk about the this Democratic senator in Kentucky that announced today that she is changing party affiliation after serving as a Democrat for nearly 30 years. Talk about all those things and more with Gabe Phifer next here on Colombo Company.
Nothing changed at all, and if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like you've been here before? How am I gonna be an optimist about this? How am I gonna be an optimist about this?
All the information I need on the drive. drive to work.
Mike Ferguson in the morning.
We keep it on throughout the day, whether it's local, national, or something big that's happening overseas.
News, analysis, and opinion.
St. Louis is number one for conservative talk.
News Talk STL.
Really great news from Skip Weber about Weber Chevrolet when he was with us on Wednesday. Of course, Weber Chevrolet is the sponsor of Closest Cabinet, which we do every Wednesday afternoon here on the show. And talking with Skip about right now how it is, things are as good as they have been, better than since the pandemic. At Weber Chevrolet, when it comes to prices, when it comes to selection, when it comes to inventory and all of those things. And that is just fantastic to hear. And especially if you're looking for a new vehicle, Weber Chevrolet, of course, has been in the St. Louis community for nearly 125 years, which is an amazing stat. And the reason that they have stuck around for so long is that year after year, month after month, every time these reputation scores get published, customer service scores get released, they are number one in the Midwest when it comes to GM dealers with a bullet. Nobody is even close. Nobody's going to give you a better deal on a new vehicle. Nobody's going to give you more for your trade-in, and nobody is going to take care of you in that vehicle and be there for you as far as customer service is concerned, better than the team at Weber Chevrolet. That's why they've been around for 125 years. That's why they have those reputation scores over and over again. And that's why if you're looking for a new vehicle, you need to check out what's happening at one of the 3 Weber Chevrolet dealers. Also, don't forget about Weber Ford in Granite City. Check out what's happening with everything at Weber Chevrolet by going to weberchevrolet.com.
Looking for a hardware store that treats you like family? Welcome to True Value Schneider's Hardware, your local gem in Old Town St. Peters. For over 100 years, we're proudly serve you St. Charles County, providing everything from lawn and garden supplies to plumbing and electrical. Need a bolt or fastener? We've got you covered. And don't forget, we're a steel dealership. Whether you need sales, parts, or service, ask for Charlie or Jerry when you come in. We're here to help. Call 636-278-4461 or visit us online at truevalue.com/Schneiders.
Attention off-road enthusiasts. Iron Bear Customs has the strongest bumpers on the planet. Plus, brush guards, lift kits, and custom cages for all vehicles. Visit ironbearcustoms.com and mention News Talk STL for 10% off. Iron Bear Customs, built tough for the toughest terrain.
Discover Patriot Powder Coating, your family-owned specialist in Pacific. From small jobs to big projects, we got you covered. Visit our showroom or call 636-551-0377. Mention News Talk STL for 10% off.
Hey, it's Vic. If you have a tree that you think is dead, you can get Roots Plus to remove it for you. Or if you think the tree is savable, or if Roots Plus thinks it's savable, they can save your tree and you keep your cash. Call them and find out what that's all about at 314-440-3662. The crews are great. They get things done. They removed the tree for me, and they did expert work, and I definitely will put my name on their company. So save the tree with Roots Plus LLC. RootsPlusLLC.com.
Serenity Wealth Now with Chris Cooper.
We are kicking off June with a very special series dedicated to home ownership and the home build process. So tune in this Sunday. We've got special guest Jim Brennan with McKelvey Homes talking about the quality and craftsmanship they've been building right here in the St. Louis area since 1898. Check it out right here on News Talk STL Sunday morning, 9 a.m. or on SerenityWealthNowRadio.com.
Sunday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors, LLC.
Live and local.
Well, here's what's on my mind. I think I got the solution to immigration.
News Talk STL. News, analysis, opinion.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Little Friday surprise for you here. Earth, Wind, and Fire.
I love it. Yeah. It just always sounds good. Just now on the TV was the Chrisleys. Have you been watching any of that?
No, I have
story?
not.
Gabe Phifer is with us on the line still. Gabe, do you know who the Chrisleys are? Do you know what that is?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
The Chrisleys, they were a reality show
Family?
And they went to jail. And Trump pardoned.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and Trump pardoned them this week. It's been all over the headlines. I've not talked about it because it's just, whatever. But it's interesting to me to see how much, I think right now they're about to start a press conference that's going to be carried, on television, like for the Chrisleys. It's been a big story, but I don't know. I don't know enough about them to know if they should have been let out or not. It kind of feels like they were Trump's friends, and so he's let his friends out of jail. But I don't know. I don't know enough about it to make that claim. But I just can't. I just don't understand why the Chrisleys are such headline makers this week.
Let's be honest, guys. The world's upside down.
Yeah. I
don't know what's up with these pardons lately, actually, because like he recently pardoned like the founder of a major Chicago area gang. Like what's going on?
Yeah, and a rapper,
who
once like bashed him in music. I mean, maybe and again, I think in some of those, at least that one with the rapper, I think that there is some case to be made that there was some overcharging and things like that. Again, I don't know. I cannot speak intelligently on the details of the cases against the Chrisleys, this husband and wife that had this reality show. But it just seems, I don't know. It's all over the news, and these people are like celebrities, in politics now suddenly. And it's just, I don't know. It's all weird to me. I
hate all of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's talk about the Supreme Court. Supreme Court has handed Donald Trump and his administration a big win today, revoking parole for 500,000 foreign nationals. The Supreme Court today stayed a lower court order that blocked the Trump administration from deporting roughly 500,000 migrants from Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. The decision is one of these short-term victories for the Trump administration. We've talked a lot about these type of cases with Susie Moore, who's with us every Monday. Of course, our friend from Red State, great News Talk STL contributor. Susie Moore has that legal background, so we, always rely on her to help us with the details of these various court cases that are in the news. And there's been a lot of these this year, where the Supreme Court, and the reason I want to talk about this for a second is because the headlines can be a little bit deceiving when you see the headline that says Supreme Court hands Trump big win on his deportation policy. You think that they made a ruling that said this is okay, and that's great because now he can keep going. But that's not exactly what happened. All they said was a ruling by a lower court that stopped the order doesn't go into play yet until the rest of the case is decided. So it temporarily allows the Trump administration to go back to work and enforcing that policy that was written, but the case is far from over and could still go against the administration in the long run. So it's a good thing, but it's not the final victory that I think some people think it is when they see a headline that says the Supreme Court gives the Trump administration a victory on their deportation policy. So the order stays for now, a lower court ruling that halted Trump's plans to terminate temporary protected status protections for some migrants living in the U.S., which allows individuals to live and work in the U.S. legally if they cannot work safely in their home country due to a disaster, armed conflict, or other, quote, extraordinary and temporary conditions. The stay, like many emergency orders handed down by the High Court, was unsigned and did not provide an explanation from the justices on why they made this decision, because it's not a ruling, so they don't have to. So the battle is far from over, but a temporary and a big temporary victory for the Trump administration today from the Supreme Court. Gabe, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, the major aspect of it is that it allows the Trump administration to continue deporting people. And the thing is, once an individual is deported, it doesn't matter what the court says after that. That guy's gone, and you can't. It's kind of similar to that one case of the Maryland dad who was sent to El Salvador. It's like, yeah, maybe the court rules that you know what, there probably should have been an extra little step here and there or whatever. If you bring them back, you can just send them away again, but you can't bring them back.
Right.
So it's just the ruling is moot for that current case. May have implications on future cases. So in the meantime, while the stay is in place, the Trump administration can keep getting rid of these yahoos out of our country.
Yep.
And that is a permanent plus for America.
That is you're exactly right. That is a good thing, but it does not get, it does not decide, or has not been decided, whether these policies are, legal and can stay into place permanently in the future. So it'll be even better when we get to that point. But we're not there yet. But it is very good that the Trump administration can continue about their plans, at least in the meantime. Kentucky State Democratic Senator Robin Webb switched party affiliation to Republican after the Democratic Party, quote, left me. Quote from Senator Robin Webb in Kentucky: "First and foremost, I'm a mother, a rancher, and a lawyer with deep personal and professional roots in Kentucky's coal country. As the Democratic Party continues to lurch to the left and its hyper focus on policies that hurt workforce and economic development in my region, I no longer feel it represents my values. It has become untenable and counterproductive to the best interests of my constituents for me to remain a Democrat." I mentioned this earlier. Webb was originally elected to the Kentucky State House in 1998, nearly 30 years serving as an elected Democrat, and as of today, has switched to the Republican Party. According to this report, it comes as a major blow to Kentucky Democrats, who have historically held a stronghold in rural regions of the state, largely due to union workers and the coal industry. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear told a local Louisville news outlet that he would consider a run as the Democratic nominee for president in 2028. And the governor and potential presidential candidate, due to this, now faces more challenges in his own states ahead of whatever presidential aspirations he may have. Again, does not affect us here in Missouri and Illinois and in the St. Louis area, Gabe, but I think telling that a person that's been serving as a Democrat, elected Democrat for decades, is like, I can't do this anymore. You people are crazy, and I can't be a part of this.
Well, the thing is, it sounds like this lawmaker was essentially a Clinton Democrat, and as you know, if you looked at the Clinton presidential platform and the things that Bill Clinton was saying back in the 90s, you would hear a lot of the same things essentially that Donald Trump is saying right now. We need to secure the border, and we want work requirements for people on welfare, and all of these things were part of the party platform back then. So yeah, that Democratic Party died ages ago. So I'm only surprised that it took her this long to make the switch.
Yeah, I know, and it really shows, like, if you were to look back, if you were to jump in a time machine and talk to Democrats during the Clinton era, and then tell them that 30 years from now, the Republican Party is going to be the party that is the party of the little guy, of the working class, middle class American, the champion for small businesses, the party that is trying to eliminate racist policies that are, that have been put in, these DI racist policies that have been put in, installed everywhere. Those Democrats in the 90s would go, if they saw what their party is now, they wouldn't believe it. They would say, no,
absolutely not.
The Democratic Party is not going to be the party advocating, for terrorists and openly anti-Semitic, and the party that's trying to say that we need to put a person's race ahead of ahead of merit or anything else,
and boys and girls locker room.
Yeah, exactly. They wouldn't believe, the Democrats of the 90s wouldn't believe that could be their party in 30 years, but that is exactly where we're at.
The Democrats and even the early 2000s wouldn't believe you either. I mean, consider that Obama's second term, he ran on traditional marriage.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It shows you just how much they have changed. And I think that is why we see, stories like this, the story out of Kentucky, where this Democrat has been serving in the state house in Kentucky for nearly 30 years as a Democrat. She's standing there going, I haven't changed. You've made me a Republican. Like, I'm not
right.
Yeah. I still have all the same values and policies and beliefs that I always have. And 30 years ago, that made me a Democrat. And that's not the case anymore. It's just a really telling story about the direction of the Democratic Party. One more
as the AOCs of the party.
Yeah.
Say, okay, boomer.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Got Gabe Phifer from the morning show on the line with us. One more here before we get that weekend forecast from Steve Templeton. The Trump administration today announced that they have uncovered one of the largest food stamp fraud and bribery schemes ever committed. This is still an active investigation, but as of now, the U.S. Department of Agriculture employee and 5 others are under arrest. That's a total of 6 people currently under arrest after allegedly misappropriating tens of millions of dollars in taxpayer food stamp funds. Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins announced the news this morning, saying, quote, "At the USDA, we are hyper-focused on rooting out that waste, fraud, and abuse, and yesterday was, if not the largest, one of the largest stings. This is a new day, and President Trump promised as he was traveling across the country over the last few years that it would not be the government that we know. With the assistance of the FBI, the U.S. Attorney's Office, 6 individuals have been criminally charged with a bribe and fraud scheme that generated more than $66 million in unauthorized transactions under the SNAP program, otherwise known as food stamps. The defendants, Michael Kehoe, I'm not going to read all these names, are accused of conspiracy to steal government funds and to misappropriate U.S. Department of Agriculture benefits. According to the press release, starting in 2019, the indictment states that this group created a network that supplied 160 unauthorized electronic benefit transfer EBT cards to stores across the New York area to illegally process more than $30 million in EBT transactions. A U.S. attorney said that this deprived the vulnerable citizens in New York that depended on these services from what they were entitled because it was all being taken illegally by this group and the network that they set up. Pretty amazing story, and pretty great news to hear that the Trump administration is investigating these things, looking into these things. My guess is this wasn't even ever on the radar screen for the Biden administration, and a major sting taken out by the Trump administration today. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely, get them.
Yeah, right.
I want to see that these type of people, made. We need like public humiliation rituals like other nations have. I know in certain countries in East Asia, they've got like caning ceremonies and whatnot. We don't obviously we can't do that because of various laws. but we need some sort of public humiliation ritual for our government officials who get caught messing, caught with their hands in the proverbial cookie jar here.
Yep. And also, how many more of these things were just operating under the, under the shadows behind the scenes during the Biden administration that hopefully get uncovered and blown up like this one was in the coming weeks and years of the Trump administration. Gabe Phifer from Mike Ferguson in the Morning. Appreciate your time as always, my friend. You can tune in every weekday morning to hear Gabe with Mike and Jerome, and also check out Gabe's YouTube channel, St. John the Philosopher on YouTube. Gabe, have a great weekend, and thanks for your time as always, buddy.
Thanks, guys. God bless.
Back at you. All right. What is going to happen this weekend weather-wise? We are going to find out next when we talk to Channel 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton here on Colombo Company.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
There's another meeting set between Ukraine and Russia. Will it actually lead to any resolution or not?
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Intervine.com, the great local company that makes the best flashlights, lanterns, and headlamps available on the market. You hear Mike McCleary from Intervine on the show with us every Monday. He's our AI expert here on Colombo and Company. But, especially with all the weather that we have experienced here in the last couple months and power outages and dealing with things like that. And also with, finally the weather turning around and getting to the outdoor season. A lot of these products, for the hardcore outdoorsman, if you're going to be camping or hiking, or you just need a smaller, reliable flashlight, lantern, or headlamp for your home or for your glove box in your vehicle, Intervine has products across the board that can help you out. And right now you can get everything at Intervine.com for 25% off just by using my name, Tony, as your promo code. Along with flashlights, lanterns, and headlamps, they also have batteries in all different sizes. So you can just stock up on batteries at an incredible price by using that promo code, my name, Tony, to get 25% off everything at Intervine. INTERVINE, Intervine.com.
Nate Lucas here for the Village Bar in the heart of Des Peres. Since 1948, the Village Bar has been the go-to destination for delicious food, cold drinks, and unbeatable atmosphere. Savor their famous wings, burgers, and onion rings, or grab a drink from their fully stocked bar. Catch all the big games and enjoy the company of their friendly staff. Plus, don't miss the 1879 Distillery, a one-of-a-kind experience right next door. The Village Bar offers the best value in town. Find the Village Bar on Facebook and come experience where history meets great times. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, Mike Ferguson here, and for nearly 40 years, Nutrition Stop has been St. Peter's trusted source for natural living. They've got a great, knowledgeable staff offering more than just products. They provide guidance on your wellness journey with exceptional service, from 100% grass-fed meats like elk and bison and local produce to quality supplements and clean household products. 4101 Mexico Road in St. Peter's, just off the interstate at Cave Springs and Highway 70.
Looking for an underwater adventure or a scaly new friend? Dive into Tropical World Pets on Watson Road. For 32 years, this family-owned wonderland has been St. Louis's go-to destination for all things aquatic and reptilian. With over 7,000 square feet of aquariums, we're home to the area's largest selection of freshwater fish, including rare cichlids you won't find anywhere else. But that's not all. We've got tarantulas, snakes, and lizards galore. Tropical World Pets, 314-849-4020, or visit twpstl.com.
Hey, firearms enthusiast, looking for a family and veteran-owned shop with a wide selection of products and services? Head to DG Firearms, 115 Business Highway 61 North in Bowling Green. DG Firearms has been your one-stop shop for custom ARs, Cerakoting, laser engraving, gunsmithing, suppressors, ammo, and reloading supplies. DG Firearms, 115 Business Highway 61 North in Bowling Green, and online at dgfirearmsllc.com.
Steve Templeton's Weekend Forecast, brought to you by Connor Roofing. You can count on Connor for all your roofing needs. Visit ConnorRoofing.com. That's CONNER roofing.com.
The Democrat Party is going to have to go back toward the center.
News, analysis, and opinion.
I've never called a talk show before, but this just irked me.
101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
We're no strangers to love. You know the rules, and so do I.
Well, welcome back to Colombo Company on 119.94.1 News Talk STL. Time to get the all-important weekend forecast. Channel 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton is on the line with us. And Steve, here's what I know. And this is all I know. It's nice right now. Is it going to stay nice? I don't know.
Oh, we're putting pressure on you, buddy.
Here's what
That's the St. Louis weather conundrum,
right?
right?
I know that it's nice right now, and I know that we're due for a little run of nice weather, but I don't know if we're going to get it or not. So
we are due.
Yeah.
And Mother Nature's going to deliver.
All right.
Yeah. I drove past the pool in my town today, and I saw some people out there, and I thought, man, this place is going to be packed this weekend, because
Good.
Memorial Day weekend, it was not great.
No, and we were talking about that earlier, how it just feels like, most of the kids around the area, I think, have already started their summer break. We've already been through Memorial Day weekend. Normally, by this point, it would have felt like, it wouldn't be July, August weather or anything like that, but it would feel like summer is here, and we would have seen some pool days and summer activities. We really haven't had any of that yet. So
you're right.
It'll be
You're
nice
right.
if
In fact, we average our first 90-degree day around May 15th, May 20th, in that range. And we haven't had it yet. And I think we're going to get it, or at least be very close by early next week. And we'll be a few degrees shy over the weekend with mid-80s. So
Gotcha.
It's definitely going to start to feel more like summer. One thing you'll notice in the skies, though, it's starting to creep in now, and I think you'll notice it more this evening and tomorrow. Smoke from Canadian wildfires that's moving our way.
We were talking about that earlier. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
crazy. Yeah.
It's going to be mainly aloft. So at this point, I don't see an air quality problem for tomorrow. We actually create the air quality forecast from the First Alert 4 Weather Center, and I went moderate. So it's not the unhealthy for sensitive groups or unhealthy. It's not that. And that's because we expect this to be thousands of feet in the air for the most part. Some of it reaches near the surface, but not enough to create an air quality problem. And it's probably going to be the case for Sunday as well. Early next week, things could change, but through the weekend, I think you'll just notice more hazy sunshine. But sunshine, at least, mostly sunny skies for Saturday. We'll wake up to about 63 and a high of 86. There's a warm day.
Nice.
Northwest winds about 10 to 15, so a nice little breeze. Mostly sunny to start Sunday, then partly cloudy and 85 for the high. So mid-80s and mostly sunny skies for the most part this weekend.
That's about as good as it can get, especially with what we have been dealing with and where we've been.
And a boy, we're proud of you,
yeah,
Steve.
no kidding. Steve, I wanted to ask you, in April, if I'm not mistaken, it was the wettest April on record, right, for the St. Louis
Wettest
area?
on record, yep.
You just touched on how we haven't had a 90-degree day in May. I don't know if we're going to set another record, but it feels like May has been, very cool, that it could be we could go from one of the wettest months to one of the coolest months on record. Is that, you think there's a possibility of that?
I'll have to look into temperature stats. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to be near any records there. I haven't heard of anything, being near the wettest or near the coolest, but I'll have to dig into that. But because we have had so many rounds of rain and cloudy skies, that has kept the temperatures down. It's one of the reasons why I haven't touched 90 degrees yet. My forecast, by the way, gets us to 90 by Monday and perhaps Tuesday. There is another chance of rain Tuesday. If it gets in here earlier, it'll be cooler, but I think it gets in here by the evening and nighttime. So I think we get a couple of hot days Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I wasn't going to push my luck. Usually I ask you about what about after the weekend? But then after Saturday and Sunday being sunny and in the 80s, I was like, I don't know, maybe we should quit while we're ahead. But I'm glad you brought it up, because that's good news moving forward. So yeah, I just, again, I just feel like, what were they in the 60s last weekend? Throughout Memorial Day weekend, and I mean, it's been a very, very cool month of May. So it'll be nice to finally get the turnaround there.
The coolest high temperature I have in my forecast in the next 10 days is 80 degrees.
Okay. All right.
Because of rain. So, it's going to be on the warmer side for the next several days into next week, as well. It should be. It's that time of the year and we're due.
Absolutely. Steve Templeton, appreciate your time as always, my friend, and very much looking forward to a warm, sunny weekend. We definitely deserve it here in the St. Louis area. Thanks for the info and inputs and insight as always, and have a great weekend yourself, my friend. Talk to you soon.
My pleasure. Enjoy the pools this weekend. Take care.
Yeah, great stuff there. That is Channel 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
See, he came through for you.
He did come through. I was worried. You had me worried. But looks like it's going to be a beautiful weekend. Hope you're able to take advantage of it. All right. We have got a little bit more to do on this Friday afternoon. We're going to be joined in studio by Elizabeth Kayser from Straight Lines Radio, which you can hear every Sunday night here on News Talk STL. She'll be in here next.
When it's important to you,
They always discuss the most important topics.
it's on News Talk STL.
President Trump and Secretary Noem are now allowing the men and women of ICE to let us do our job again.
Saying that there is not an organized group of individuals who are trying to invade this country. I'd like to introduce this judge to MS-13.
News, analysis, opinion.
We need a place in this country where we can send people to visually demonstrate their total separation from society.
Number one for live and local conservative talk.
My talk station.
News Talk STL.
Concerned about the condition of your windows driving up your energy bills? I was too. It's only called STL Windows and Doors. Their Provia windows combine old world craftsmanship the professional way, the Provia way, with over 65 years of combined experience, locally owned, offering competitive pricing and personalized service that the big box companies can't match. Call today for your free in-home estimate and start saving tomorrow. 314-277-5952 or stlwindowsanddoors.com.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. 3 big hours of great tunes from the 90s, 80s, and 70s. Plus bits and pieces that'll take you back to the best years of your past.
This week, we'll remember the great Rick Derringer, and our A-list interview is with Elton John. Plus, you'll hear our exclusive, the first 2 songs from the Billy Joel, Elton John, Busch Stadium concert from August of 1994. All brought to you by the Weber Automotive Group.
It's JC's Wayback Machine. Every Saturday night, 6 to 9. News Talk STL.
Anthony's Produce is your one-stop shop for locally grown produce. Best tomatoes in town, Amish grown. Come, check out a huge selection of annuals, tropicals, hanging baskets, and perennials. Have some chocolate-covered strawberries or a fruit bouquet delivered by us. Special events coming up? Let Anthony's make your fruit and vegetable trays an easy project. Order from us. It's our specialty. 7 days a week, Monday to Saturday, 7 to 6:30, and Sundays, 8 to 5. 701 Jungerman Road and at anthonysproduce.com.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. While Israel has accepted a temporary ceasefire in the current war, Islamic radicals in Hamas remain silent going into the weekend. Meantime, Israel is also said to be planning airstrikes to take out the ongoing nuclear program in Iran. On the Salem News program this week on Capitol Hill with Tony Perkins, former UN Ambassador John Bolton was asked what Israel may be communicating with the Trump administration.
Perhaps sharing, at least in general terms, what the objectives of potential military action would be. And I think probably asking the United States to provide intelligence and other assistance, and certainly to be ready to defend Israel if Iran or Hezbollah or others tried to retaliate after a strike against the nuclear program.
Ambassador Bolton's full interview on This Week on Capitol Hill will be broadcast beginning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time Saturday on the Salem News Channel. Also at townhall.com, President Trump bid farewell to Elon Musk in the Oval Office today. The billionaire entrepreneur is ending his work in the administration. He had spearheaded the Department of Government Efficiency, known as DOGE, to slash federal spending. Musk plans to go back to running his companies, including Tesla and SpaceX. Ukraine says it's ready to resume direct peace talks with Russia.
Ukraine is ready to resume direct peace talks with Russia in Istanbul on Monday. But Ukraine says Russia must provide a promised memorandum setting out its position on ending the more than 3-year-old war before parties sit down to negotiate. Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan said that as long as the parties remain at the negotiating table, progress can be made. I'm Donna Warder.
And on Wall Street, stocks finished mixed. The Dow up 51, the Nasdaq lost 62. More at townhall.com.
You heard the news. Newsmax just went public on the New York Stock Exchange and listed on the big board. Millions of Americans like you are joining our news revolution. Reuters Institute says Newsmax is one of the top 12 news brands in America. Even President Trump says it's terrific. 40 million Americans go to Newsmax, and its audience grew 50% since the same time last year. Millions really are making the switch to Newsmax. If you want to be a Newsmax share owner, call your advisor or get more info at newsmaxinvest.com. Stand with Newsmax today for a strong America. This communication is for informational purposes only and shall not be intended to or shall not constitute any offer to buy or sell securities, nor shall there be any sale of securities in any jurisdiction in which such offer, solicitation, or sale would be unlawful.
From the Michael's Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. We've got a warmer weekend on the way. Overnight low of 63 degrees, then a toasty warm 86 for Saturday afternoon. Mostly sunny skies. That's hazy sunshine, though, because there will be wildfire smoke from Canada in our skies. It's mainly aloft, though, so not an air quality problem. And then Sunday, mostly sunny to start, then partly cloudy and a high of 85. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Because truth matters.
Let's speak that truth.
Because understanding matters.
Let's break this down.
With all that's happening.
And it's happening a lot faster.
What matters most is...
the only question that matters here.
Are you informed?
Important issues that are facing this country.
Depend on us.
The latest events.
The information you need.
Here are the facts.
When you need it.
We always have great conversations.
You guys have a great radio station.
101.9 and 94.1. News Talk STL. This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Fox News commentary.
This state becomes the first to introduce a climate change tax on visitors, and hint, it's actually not California. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
When I started skiing, I didn't think about setting any records. When I won my first race, I didn't think about how many more I might win. So when I made it to the top of the world, it never crossed my mind to stop. Being the best isn't the same as being your best. There are no shortcuts to the top, so find the people who help get you there. I'm Michaela Schifrin, and that's what Team Stiefel means to me. If you're an advisor or an investor, choose Stiefel, where success meets success.
Stiefel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Past performance is no indication of future results. Investing involves risk. Consult a financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
Blue state generally being the most geographically beautiful in the country, their taxes, regulations, woke policies, and deranged populations make them less appealing than perhaps they ought to be. Here's another example. Hawaii became the first state in the nation to introduce a climate change tax on visitors. Their Democrat governor signed the so-called green fee into law this week, which will be slapped on tourists in an effort to make them pay for their fair share of the carbon footprint. The fee will begin next January and will consist of a 0.75% tax on visitors staying at hotels and rentals. Penalizing tourists doesn't seem like the best way to attract them, especially as you essentially blame them for ruining your state. But this idea got me thinking. Perhaps we should start slapping a liberal tax on all the folks who visit or move to our great red cities and states and then proceed to ruin them. Now that I could get behind. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show, Tommy Lahren is Fearless, at Outkick.com.
Conservative talk for St. Louis.
It's your patriotic right and duty.
The government needs to step up and do its job.
This is News Talk STL.
It's well-balanced conversation.
News, analysis, opinion.
Thanks for taking my call.
News, analysis, opinion.
Radio news junkie.
Love every bit about it.
News Talk STL.
The heart is a blue, shoots up through the stony ground.
I'm not going to have time, and I certainly don't.
What's that?
No space to rent in this town. You're out of luck. And the reason that you had to care, the traffic is stuck. And you're not moving anywhere. You thought you found.
Welcome back to Colombo and Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Tony Colombo here in the studio with producer Stel Ponticus. And now, as I mentioned earlier, we have company over on a Friday afternoon. Elizabeth Kayser from Straight Lines, which you can hear every Sunday night at 8 p.m. here on News Talk STL, is in studio with us. Elizabeth, great to see you. How are you?
Hey, good to see you, Tony. I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great. So Straight Lines is one of the newer shows here on News Talk STL. We're talking about you a little bit earlier and, teasing some of the things we're going to talk about. You're an attorney. You have a medical background as well. So a lot of really expertise in some of the, biggest issues, in the news right now, which is fantastic. Tell people about Straight Lines and what you talk about, a little bit about yourself and what people can hear on Sunday nights.
Yeah, I will, Tony. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, I do have a little bit of a diverse background. A lot of people tend to kind of stereotype and think, oh, an attorney, okay, you sit behind computers and you litigate all day. But I'm kind of happen to be an attorney. I'm more of an entrepreneur, and I have a lot of interest, obviously, with what I've done. But my main passion today and what I'm really focused on and what I've actually been passionate about my entire life is health. And, how does that have to do with AI? Actually, it's, to me, very inextricably intertwined. But my show right now is really focusing on two things. It is focusing on, of course, what our administration is doing, what everybody else is focused on, but mainly with the injunctions. And I definitely am watching it like a hawk with what's happening with the injunctions on both sides of the fence, why it's happening. And I just think we live in really, really exciting times. And I can certainly talk about that. The other passion, and it's an entirely different bucket than the injunctions, because that's in my attorney hat. The other passion is health. And I'm all about what's happening with the MAHA movement, making America healthy again. That's something I've basically, that's near and dear to my heart. I mean, that is really my true soul and my passion, and know a lot about health, not just, I'm not a doctor, but I know a lot about health. I did start a blood testing company a few years back, really focusing on A1C, diabetes, a lot of the chronic conditions, because that is my passion of what's been happening to this country in the last 15 years with people getting sicker and sicker and sicker.
Oh.
And so,
with that background, you and I should one day off the air have a very long conversation about Elizabeth Holmes and
yeah, with me, my first name Elizabeth. I know that wasn't a
that is one of my
connotation.
no. I mean, but I'm just saying, like, that is one of the most fascinating stories, related to the health. And if you have any expertise at all, I'm sure you would be, have some really interesting insight. And I've never talked about that story on the air before, but that's one of my guilty true crime and things like that are kind of some of my guilty pleasures off the air. And when you mentioned blood testing and like that one, I'm sure you would have some fascinating insight.
Not only that, she
crazy...
she concentrated in the finger stick, right? The one drop of blood.
Yeah.
Well, my company was also finger stick, but the lady who did it right, she started on Shark Tank, and I know we're digressing just a little bit.
No, that's okay.
Julia Cheek. I don't know if you've heard of Julia Cheek.
Oh.
She's got Everly Well, and she started on Shark Tank, I think in 2009. And got just like a little, mere $1 million. And I think her company's worth billions now.
Nice.
And she has finger stick blood testing, but she did it right.
She did it right. Was honest. Exactly. She wasn't.
A lot of scientists and doctors on our team.
Oh man, I bet we could have a long conversation about that.
I'm sure we could.
But definitely tune in every Sunday night, 8 p.m. Straight Lines with Elizabeth Kayser. And I'm glad you touched on. We have a few minutes here, so I want to touch on a few of these things. AI is another big one that we talk about. On this show, but the MAHA movement.
Yeah.
Of all the things that we are more engaged with than ever as voters, as citizens, even in the news, how we're like digging into issues, and people are starting to understand what's going on, but in the swamp and things like that, in so many areas more than ever. But health is not one of them.
No.
And like people like looking into how our foods are made and how they're processed and what goes into them and what goes on, behind the scenes. That's one of the few areas that is so impactful.
Yes.
That touches literally everybody, but is still one that is generally an unknown
It really
for people.
is. It really is.
And having that understanding is so important to know what's going on with our food.
Yeah, and I get that passion legitimately, Tony. My father, he's passed a few years ago. He was a food chemist, and there's not very many food chemists in the country.
Yeah.
He was just a chemist, but a food chemist. It's like, I've never heard of a food chemist. He told me when I was a teenager, I'm not kidding you. He was like, we got to get rid of this red dye number 30, red dye number 40. And I think, having that chemistry brain, my mom was like the socialite. My dad was very, very somewhat of an introvert, kind of nerdy. And I think I got a little bit of both between my parents. But he taught me about these things. And that was back when I was a teenager. And they were trying to get rid of red number 30 and 40 back then. And he was telling me about how they use beet juice. Well, here it is, December 2024, right before the inauguration, Trump takes the White House. Biden finally got rid of red number 40 to take the credit, of course. But, and I think what we're learning as far as the food industry, and it's interesting, your observation, how it's not, you don't hear it in the media. It's not articulated. It's not out there. And I think one of the reasons is that we all know that, the big pharma is a big institution, and we all know how they make their money, right? The sicker people are, the more money they make. We know that. That's a truism. But the food companies are really inextricably intertwined with all of that. And I don't think we realize that until now.
Yeah.
Now that we've got somebody who's willing, that has the moxie and the grit to turn things on its head and really go through this expose like Bobby Kennedy, RFK Jr.
Yeah.
We're finding that out. And we're also finding out that a lot of these big food companies, Coca-Cola and Kraft and Nestle, they actually came from the cigarette industry. So the big cigarette manufacturers back in the day, Marlboro, they actually spun off these food companies because they know how to make things addictive.
Yeah, right.
And so I just think it's fascinating how this is all inextricably intertwined.
Yeah.
And no, I don't think it never reached the public eye, and now it is. So there's federal lawsuits for, they call it UPF, ultra processed foods. There's some big time class actions and federal lawsuits being filed against these huge food companies for putting these chemicals, 10,000 chemicals that we allowed in our country. Only 400 of those chemicals are allowed in Europe, by the way. These lawsuits are being levied against these big food companies for doing this.
I hope you're right. And I think you make a great observation about, Trump and his bringing attention to this and appointing somebody like RFK Jr. to lead that department and lead that cause. Another person that is, very interesting and coverable, somebody that the media pays attention to. Hopefully this combination is a way to finally start getting these issues and that information out to the general public and that education out that just has never been there.
It's never
before.
surfaced. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, hopefully that's one of the good things that comes from this the Trump administration.
When one thing we're seeing already is that a lot of these like fast food chains, for example, I think it's Arby's was on the news. I'm pretty sure I heard about that a couple of weeks ago. They're starting to become very proactive. So before it becomes mandate, before it becomes law, they're starting to go out there with commercials saying, hey, our ketchup's going to look a little different. It's not going to be as bright red. And here's why, so they're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, ding, ding, the train's coming. They know it's coming and they want to do the right thing. And they know they're going to look a lot better if they do it voluntarily rather than being forced to do it.
Yeah. Whatever is the motivation behind clean it up and making it healthier is I'm all for. So that's interesting stuff. We'll have to have you back on and continue down that aisle sometimes, because that's another one that we could talk about.
I could talk about Maha for hours.
Which is good. But there are few people that can. And that's why it's so important that there are people like you that
so many things that he's doing, so many initiatives.
I did want to touch on, we're talking to Elizabeth Kayser from Straight Lines, which you can hear every Sunday night at 8 p.m. here on News Talk STL. about your law background, and you touched on the courts earlier and injunctions, and we just covered the story. There was a ruling issued today by the Supreme Court. They put a stay on a lower court's ruling that stopped the Trump administration from deporting certain groups of immigrants. That the Trump administration can start deporting again, but it's just a stay. So the case is not over yet, but it's one of these over and over and over again in the last few months since the Trump administration. There's just been, court action after court action, lawsuits, lower court rulings, federal courts putting injunctions on different Trump actions. It's nothing like we've ever seen with any other president.
It's not
in the past.
Yeah.
What do you? I mean, is it all just due to Trump derangement syndrome? Because it just seems to me like there's no other common denominator there except for they don't like Trump, and so they're targeting him.
Well, I think there's a few things going on. Trump derangement, absolutely. I totally agree with you. That's probably number one. So yeah, that is overarching principle and the motivating factor. But Trump doesn't exist lightly. I mean, he's
no,
he exists,
yeah.
and he lives life hard.
Blunt force, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, I've always said, when there was a personal anecdote I was going to share, but maybe some other time. When you're on the rugby field,
we get to know each other a little bit better.
when you're on the rugby field, you're going to get hurt. You know, when you're a football player, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah,
That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like somebody who lives life in the fast lane, and they're everywhere because they're burning the candle at four ends at the same time. They should be allowed more speeding tickets. The state should allow them more speeding tickets because they're on the road the whole time. That's kind of like an analogy. So I think one thing you're seeing with Trump is, first of all, he's creating a lot of friction, a lot of controversy because you can't keep up with him because he's so active. He's so bold. He's got so much moxie, so much grit, so much confidence. And I know it's controversial, and some people think that he's abusing his plenary powers, and in maybe some ways he is. But the thing is that with Trump, he's thinking, I've got one term. That's it. I've got 3.5 more years to get done, clean the swamp, get this country back on track. And that's not much time in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah.
So he's got to go quick, and he's got to go fast, and he's got to be bold. He doesn't have time to be a perfectionist. He's kind of like, I used to say I'm an 80-20 person, because I am. When I'm ready to go 80%, I go. And I build the last 20% as I fly it.
Yeah.
Because the last 20% isn't really going to be relevant anyway, because things change, because life is like water.
And you can fall behind.
You can fall behind.
If you don't go. Yeah.
Exactly. And so Trump, he's probably more like a 50-50. When he's 50% ready, he goes and he builds the half of the plane as he's flying it. And I don't blame him, because he's only got very limited time to do. He's got this narrow window of opportunity. So you got that. Of course, there's going to be more resistance because he's creating more friction.
Yeah.
Because it's not like a wind tunnel.
It's not like Joe Biden didn't sign a bunch of executive orders, but just like you said, Joe Biden is not as blunt, in your face, as public as
right.
So when he would write an executive order, it would maybe get a headline or maybe get a story here and there. When Trump writes an executive order, there's media and judges everywhere going, okay, what can we do to stop this or look into this? There's just so much more scrutiny on top of every action that Trump takes than there was in the past. And it just has created this like adversarial justice system versus the president.
It's like,
situation.
It's kind of like warp. It's kind of like warp speed.
Yeah,
and then, you've got, now Biden did have executive orders. There were some injunctions against Biden.
Yeah.
And there was only about 1/3 compared to Trump. I think Trump's got, actually it's less than that. I think it's about 25% compared to Trump. So, very de minimis compared to the number of injunctions against Trump. But then again, like I said, like in a wind tunnel, if Trump is creating a wind tunnel and it's going 1,000 miles an hour, Biden's wind tunnel was maybe at best 100 miles an hour compared to Trump is 1,000. I think everything is relative. One thing I say in my talk show, Tony, is everything is relative and everything is temporary. People lose perspective. People lose context all the time. The media wants you to lose context and lose perspective because that's how they make their money, especially the left wing. They want you to see one thing in a vacuum, forget the perspective, forget the context. Let's just look at that one statement in a vacuum. And that's how they get the wow effect and the shock effect. But the other thing, too, that's interesting is that, you know, there are Republican appointed federal district judges that are also going against Trump.
Yeah.
And I think we need to be cognizant of that.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've got, of course, you know, more of the liberal judges, but we do have Republican appointed federal judges going against Trump. Not as many,
Right.
but you've got both. So there was an interview by a federal district judge. He's a former judge, of course, otherwise he wouldn't be able to speak publicly about this. And he said there is this allegiance to protect your own. So he the one thing he said, I thought that was kind of interesting. He said that psychology trumps everything. So he said law is trumped by the economy. So the economy will always prevail over something that's legal in our country. But the law and the economy are both trumped by psychology. Psychology is the biggest motivating factor of anything as human beings. And I think we could all agree with that. And there's a lot of psychology amongst the collegiate board of these lower district judges that they're kind of protecting their own. They take Trump's attack on some of these, you know, judicial activism. And as you and I both just said, he's very blunt, right? He doesn't pull any punches. He says what he thinks. And they take those attacks as a personal attack against them, too, even the Republican judges. So I think you see a little bit of that. And there's also this controversy, and it's kind of a law school product. Having gone to law school, our law school didn't actually teach this, but it's called unitary executive. And it's a way to interpret the Constitution that gives the President of the United States complete power over the executive branch, even to the point of how things are done on a daily basis, even to the point of being able to fire and terminate and lay off tens of thousands of employees under the executive branch, right? And even to the point of even interpreting some of the legal ramifications, which is interesting. So there is ambiguity and how the Constitution is interpreted.
Well, and you make a great point, and you would know better than most with your legal background that judges don't like to be told that they're wrong. They don't like to be challenged, especially publicly.
I'm so glad you said that, because that was the other point I was going to bring up. Very intuitive, Tony. Ego.
Yeah.
So, you know, Trump's not in the White House because he doesn't have ego, right? We all know he's got ego, and ego can be very good. Ego is motivation to get things done and move the needle. Well, you know that all these judges, the lower court federal judges, they're there. They have an ego as well. And you're exactly right. I think it's a power play. Now, there are some things that I've got my eagle eye on that I'm really studying, and it's the case that the Supreme Court's going to render a ruling on sometime in the end of June or early July at the latest. That is going to have profound ramifications of what we're seeing here. And that is when the birthright citizenship 14th Amendment went up. The real issue, though, and that is, and here's why it's going to impact the injunctions. The real issue is that the justices aren't really going to be looking at the 14th Amendment birthright citizenship and whether that can be amended by executive order. They're going to be looking at the injunctions and the technique of how that ruling was entered, the universal injunction. So when a lower court enters a ruling, that is affecting the entire country instead of just the parties before the court. And that is very controversial. I mean, me as an attorney, I don't, you know, what I learned in law school, and, you know, I've been practicing law since 1996. They're the only parties that should be affected in any kind of judgment, unless it's a class action, are the parties before the court.
Right.
You can't just enter an order affecting the parties who litigated that particular issue that's in dispute. And then, you know, the judge signs the order and it affects tens of thousands, if not millions of people in the entire country who didn't even have an attorney, who didn't even have a case to present evidence. I think that is so wrong. And that is the ruling we're going to see from the Supreme Court real soon. And if they say universal injunctions go bye-bye, that's huge.
Yeah. And this is why it's so important to have voices like yours out there in the media, because all this is happening, and it's new. We're not used to seeing this public dispute, and we're in all these types of rulings and injunctions and stays and all of that, and it's confusing. And, you know, to have people like you out there to help explain and give the background to these stories is so important. We didn't even get to AI, so we got to have you back.
Are we done?
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about AI.
I know, I do too, but we will definitely do that. We're big AI fans here.
Specify that, Tony. Quantum AI.
Quantum AI. So
yeah.
we
Put that
will,
word before it.
we will definitely have to have you back. That's Elizabeth Kayser with Straight Lines, which you can hear every Sunday night, 8 p.m. here on News Talk STL. I'm with you on the birthright citizen. That's one of the biggest cases out there that I'm have been watching, and so we got to have you back as that saga continues, and to talk about AI.
Absolutely, I'll be all over it once that ruling.
And we'll be listening on Sunday nights.
Yes,
so
thank you.
Thank you
for
so
having
much.
me on,
yes,
Tony.
Great to see you.
It was
Thanks for being
fun.
here. That's Elizabeth Kayser. Again, tune in every Sunday night, 8 p.m. here on News Talk STL for Straight Lines. All right, got just a little bit more to do here before we start the weekend and hand things off to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. You're listening to Colombo and Company on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
And Larry Connors is on deck with his commentary. It includes a warning: don't step on Superman's cape.
No space to rent in this town. You're out of luck. And the reason that you had to care, the traffic is stuck. And you're not moving anywhere. You thought you found a friend to take you out of this place. Someone you could lend a hand in return for grace.
News, analysis, opinion.
You know, they're literally taking the Constitution and putting it in a paper shredder.
News Talk STL.
Well, we got that great weekend forecast from Steve Templeton just a few minutes ago, and that means it's a great weekend to get out on the water and do some fishing, enjoy the great outdoors. And if you need a little help in that area, Bluff City Outdoors in Alton, Illinois is the place to go. Open 7 days a week, about a mile east of Fast Eddie's. They're on East Broadway in Alton. Bluff City has all of your trapping needs. They have all of your bow hunting needs. They even have the archery range open every day that you can shoot in there at Bluff City. But this time of year, it's all about the fishing stuff, the fishing gear, lures, equipment, live bait, frozen bait. Bluff City Outdoors can even hook you up with a guided fishing tour on the Mississippi or Missouri River. They have some great events coming up. This weekend is Bluff City Outdoors Fest. There's also next weekend, next Sunday, a week from this Sunday, the 8th, is a big fishing tournament that was born right here on News Talk STL on the Bluff City Outdoors show, my weekend program with Mark McMurray and his team there at Bluff City Outdoors. What started as a conversation on the air has turned into the first ever multi-species fishing pentathlon fishing tournament happening a week from Sunday at Carlisle Lake. It's very unique, and it gives an opportunity for everybody to compete. You don't have to be a competitive tournament fisherman to have a chance to win some prizes and be very successful in this tournament. Go to the Bluff City Outdoors Facebook page, go to the events tab, and you can learn about everything happening this weekend with the Bluff City Outdoors Fest and everything happening with the multi-species fishing pentathlon tournament next Sunday at Carlisle Lake. And you can register to be in that tournament, or you could just find out all the details if you want to come out and spectate and be a part of it that way. Don't forget about the Bluff City Outdoors show every Saturday morning, 11 a.m. here on News Talk STL. And for all of your outdoor needs, check out Bluff City Outdoors in Alton, Illinois.
It's brand new year. Tim Jones will tell you about the brand new things happening at The Hideout, famous for the Sunset Patio, 50 big screen TVs, live music and events, a fantastic game room, and of course, the food. The Hideout has a brand new menu featuring their world famous wings, the best handcrafted burgers, new items like the signature Sunset Dip and Dave's Chili, and a second location at Sugar Creek Golf Course in beautiful High Ridge. Experience the Hideout while enjoying a round of golf. Come in for lunch or dinner. The new 2025 Hideout, hideoutsportsbar.com, hideoutsportsbar.com. We'll definitely see you there.
This is Larry Connors' commentary on News Talk STL.
I'm betting many of you know that you do not tug on Superman's cape. And most will know that's part of a 1972 Jim Croce song. It also says, You don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't spin in the wind. You don't pull the mask off the Lone Ranger. And there was another lyric sometimes included. You don't get in a fight with a junkyard dog. Where am I going with this? This involves a Netflix TV series. It came out in 2019, followed by a movie, and then another and another. It's about a drug lord, loosely based on a real drug lord. And the real drug lord is, well, he's not happy. He is suing Netflix for defamation of character, saying the drug lord is depicted as a brutal serial killer. So he's going after them the old-fashioned way. Lawsuits, suing Netflix. And somewhere, I imagine some lawyer at Netflix is probably reminding everyone, hey, you don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't spit into the wind. So who wants to take this guy to court?
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
John Beal Roofing reminds you we are in the stormy season, and that means if you have even the smallest leak in your roof, you could soon have a much bigger issue. Call the John Beal to make sure that your biggest investment is protected. That call can save you major dollars. If you do get hit during a storm, John Beal has a rapid response team. Call 1-800-NEW-ROOF. 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 John Beal.
Jamie Allman here, tossing and turning over retirement worries. You're not alone. 3 out of 4 Americans share your concern about having enough saved. But here's the thing. A comfortable retirement isn't out of reach, even if you're planning for 30 or 40 years ahead. Every day, Jeff Portman from the Gemini Wealth Group helps people avoid the critical mistakes that can derail their retirement. Build your path to financial confidence. Visit GeminiWealthGroup.com or call Jeff directly at 314-888-0123.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor. Member FINRA SIPC.
Here's great news. Napoli Kirkwood is now open. So that means fine dining right in the heart of Kirkwood. So you have the original Cafe Napoli in downtown Clayton, Napoli 2, Town and Country, Napoli 3 on the streets of St. Charles, right next door to Napoli C, plus Napoli Brothers Pasta and Pizza in the Chesterfield Valley. All of those locations, and now adding Napoli Kirkwood. What a great place to dine. Napoli Kirkwood, now open.
On the next
Larry Connors USA.
There's another meeting set between Ukraine and Russia. Will it actually lead to any resolution or not?
Larry Connors USA.
Now weeknights 6 until 8
On News Talk STL. If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
and listen anytime, anywhere.
See what I just did? I ran.
You ran.
I ran to an open mic. Not supposed to do that. Radio 101. Welcome back to Colombo Company on 101.9. 101. See what happens? Your brain stops working when you run. 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Thank goodness this is the end of the week. Looks like it's going to be a beautiful weekend. If you missed Steve Templeton's forecast last hour, it is sunny and mid-80s on both Saturday and Sunday this weekend. So can't really ask for any better than that. So we're getting near 90 on Monday and Tuesday. So it looks like maybe finally the summer is here in St. Louis. I'm not sure we had a spring, but summer might be on time. So that's great to hear. Hope you're able to get out and have some fun this weekend. I want to do some Friday fun time here before we wrap things up. One last quick story, Stel. The Wisconsin judge, you know, the one that was hiding the illegal immigrant and has been charged by the Trump administration.
Was that Dugan?
Yes. Judge Hannah Dugan in Wisconsin. She is, so that case, you know, is ongoing. It hasn't gone, to court or anything like that yet. Both sides still putting together their cases. And the Judge Hannah Dugan's legal team made news today because they are claiming that she has absolute immunity and that these charges should have never been kind of what we were just talking about with Elizabeth Kayser from Straight Lines a minute ago about the ego of judges and, just how big of a thing that can truly be. According to Judge Hannah Dugan in Wisconsin, her actions, because she's a judge, she's immune to any of these possible charges against her. And so therefore the federal government has no business in charging her with helping a violent criminal, illegal immigrant avoid charges and evade the law in the state of Wisconsin.
Her statement,
interesting.
That's the epitome of a judicial coup.
Yeah. She said her attorneys say that she's entitled to judicial immunity for her official acts and that the federal government overstepped its authority by arresting and charging her. Additionally, the legal team asserts that the charges violate the Constitution's 10th Amendment and the principle of separation of powers. Basically, I'm a judge, so you can't touch me. Not sure that's going to work out.
I hope not.
Judge Hannah Dugan.
Because really it shouldn't.
In Wisconsin. All right.
Because if this continues, and we haven't talked about this with Susie Moore at all, I'm curious to see if Trump is looking at the possibility of habeas corpus, which Abraham Lincoln used back during the Civil War. We should ask her sometime and see if that's valid.
Yeah, she'll be with us on Tuesday this coming week. And, again, kind of along with the conversation we were just having with Elizabeth Kayser a moment ago, we're at a new level of I don't know what adversary with the federal government and the justice system and courts. Just like
the adversarial position.
Something's got to
give
at some point, because the way that it's been going along here has been crazy. So yeah, we'll definitely talk to Susie Moore and others about those issues. Let's talk about something that's not quite as pressing. Did you see the video of the kid who won the spelling bee?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, the big national spelling bee, Scripps National Spelling Bee was last night. The winner was this 13-year-old kid from Texas, and when he spelled the final word, he threw his hands up and he didn't faint, but he in celebration just flopped on the floor. The video's out there and making headlines. You can go and check it out. And on the heels of that, there has been a survey done asking Americans what are the toughest words to spell on a regular basis. And these are normal words, not super califragilistic, expialidocious. These are normal words that are used in normal everyday conversation that you have trouble spelling. I have a trouble with talking. Some people have trouble with spelling. Does anything come to mind for you immediately? Are you a good speller in general? Still?
In general, yes. But there are always the ones that pop up that really make me scratch my head, like draft.
Yeah.
DRAFT or DRAUGHT.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of those that I know make the English language difficult for someone to learn.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't imagine.
The classic Gallagher routine about the English language from the 70s and 80s. I don't know if you've ever seen that comic, that his stand-up routine about the English language, where he's talking about where he's actually got these flip cards, and it's COMB is comb, right? So BOMB would be bone.
Boom.
No,
exactly. Perfect example.
Yeah, he's flipping. It's really, really, really funny stuff.
Was Gallagher the watermelon guy?
Yes. Okay. Yes. But he's got a very famous English language
tutorial
bit. Yeah. It's really funny.
Nice.
But according to this survey, the number one word on this survey is the number one word that always gets me. Definitely. The reason is because when I always spell it right, but I always check it 3 times because it always looks like it could be defiantly. I write it, and then like when it spells checks and it says it's right, I'm like, well, yeah, but did I just spell defiantly or did I just spell definitely? I spelled a word right, but was it the right word? That's the number one word that Americans say they have trouble spelling. Others in the top 10 are separate, necessary. Necessary is one that gets me too. Believe, through. I don't know why that one's so hard. Gorgeous, neighbor, business, favorite, and restaurant. Those are the top 10 words that Americans have trouble spelling. All right, that is going to do it for us. We will be back on Monday at 2:00. Have a great weekend. The weather is going to be fantastic, so take advantage of it and keep it here for the O'Reilly Report next. Then the Tim Jones and Chris Arp Show on News Talk STL.
Start your summer with a weekend showdown. Shohei Ohtani and the Los Angeles Dodgers roll into Busch Stadium June 6th through the 8th. Be there Friday for a cool new promo. The first ever Cardinals neck fan. Perfect for hot game days. Then on Sunday, young fans 15 and under take home a Rawlings Kids Glove. It's a weekend of big matchups and big giveaways. Get your tickets now at cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Mason Wynn, St. Louis Cardinals, for the Lou.
Hey parents, looking for something fun and unforgettable to do with the kids? Bring the whole family to a Cardinals game at Busch Stadium. From kid-friendly activities and giveaways to awesome promotions like Kids Run the Bases. Your little ones will have a blast, and so will you. Check out Family Sundays, presented by Smithfield, where select tickets include a free jumbo hot dog and soda. There's nothing like sharing the magic of Cardinals baseball together. Make your memories this summer at Busch Stadium. Tickets are available at cardinals.com. Hey, DIY warriors, ready to transform your outdoor space? Start with Lee May Concrete Block, St. Louis's trusted family-owned manufacturer since 1947. Whether you're building a retaining wall, creating a backyard fireplace, or pouring concrete, Lee May's got you covered. From compact blocks to large cast concrete, they provide materials and professional guidance to bring your vision to life. Military and first responders get special discounts. Visit Lee May Block Showroom or LeeMayBlock.com. Lee May Block, building your dream one block at a time.
Your addiction could cost you everything. Your job, your children, your loved ones, maybe even your life. Face it, you need help. Call Better Addiction Care now. It's time to end your addiction to drugs and alcohol. Help is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter who you are, where you're located, or your financial situation. Our network of treatment centers can guide you before it's too late and you hurt yourself or your loved ones again. We're Better Addiction Care and can help put an end to your addiction. Plus, your insurance may cover up to 100% of costs. Don't wait another moment. Your life could depend on making the call right now. There's still time to get back what addiction has taken away. This could be the most important call of your life.
Call 800-743-6335. 800-743-6335. 800-743-6335. That's 800-743-6335.
Hey, Colombo here for Rockwood Charcoal. Rockwood is made from 100% pure Missouri oak and hickory, so you're cooking with the best and supporting local industry and a local business all at once. There's over 100 area Rockwood retailers. Find yours at rockwoodcharcoal.com.
My mother was very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign and she wasn't even really sure where she was at.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
This is Tony Katz filling in for the great Bill O'Reilly. It's Friday, May 30th, 2025. You are listening to the O'Reilly Update. Here is what's happening today in America. A federal court blocks the president's tariff plan. Hawaii imposes a climate change tourism tax. Half of Americans consider themselves workaholics. A new survey ranks the wealthiest neighborhoods in the USA. Also ahead, my message of the day. But first, a 3-judge panel in New York City blocking President Trump from imposing high tariffs on imports. The U.S. Court of International Trade rejected the White House's authority to unilaterally impose the tax without their approval. Wrote the panel, quote, "The president's worldwide tariff orders exceed any authority granted to him by the 1977